Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see everyone on this beautiful Friday morning, afternoon, actually. My name is Antoinette Rucker. I'm the advocacy coordinator for Interfaith Partners for the Chesapeake. And on behalf of Interfaith Partners for the Chesapeake and Interfaith Partner Power and Light, I want to thank everyone for taking out this time to log on to our 2026 legislative debrief of this year's legislative session. Um, very sorry. And to begin, we have asked Reverend Melody Hession-Sigmon to assist us, the assistant to the Bishop for the Public Policy in Delaware, Maryland, Synod for the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, to deliver an opening prayer for our reflection.
Let us pray. Holy Spirit, thank you for gathering us together this afternoon. Thank you that the source of all life runs through all of us, making us inextricably linked to each other and to the earth. God, the Spirit was strong in us this session, like a wide, healthy tree with deep roots. Thank you for every moment when one could not so that another could, or one did so that another could stop. For those who are spent, may they find rest. For those who overflow, may the waters settle. For those who are growing, may they enjoy the view. Help us, dear God, and inspire us, continue to guide us. Help us listen and respond not only to each other, but to this planet, our home. And help us now shake off the power and wealth that saturates the halls of the legislature, and now together ground ourselves deeply back in our communities as advocates. Amen.
Amen. Yeah, thank you so much, Reverend, for that really grounding reflection. We always know that whatever work we're doing in the legislature, we can always count on, our partners at the Delaware Maryland Synod, the ELCA, to just support us in everything that we do. So it's nice to see you and everyone again. My name's Awimbo. I'm the IPC Director of Leadership Development. And so thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us as we reflect on how the session went. We're inviting our guest speakers to just share their insights and expertise with us one more time to help us better understand how our priority bills evolved through the session. And of course, today we also have an opportunity to discuss, ask questions regarding the outcomes, and then also begin to set a plan, where we need to for the next session. So today we're going to discuss the outcomes of our work on the Maryland Bottle Bill, the CHERISH Act, the Affordable Solar Act, and data center legislation. So first, let's hear from Martha Ainsworth, who was our fearless leader. She works with the Sierra Club Zero Waste team and really helped spearhead the Bottle Bill Coalition. So welcome, Martha, and give us an update.
Thank you so much. And thanks to everybody for all the work you did on the bottle bill and all these other priorities during this session. I've got a short PowerPoint to share with you. Oops. Share first. You see anything yet? No.
Not yet.
Okay, I forgot to actually share it. Okay, now you see it. So
Yes.
the bottom line message is that we are making progress and we are building momentum. So I just want to remind people of what this bill is about in case you weren't familiar with the details. The objective of this program is to reduce beverage container litter and plastic pollution, to remove most of the 5.5 billion beverage containers sold in the state annually. It's very few of them recycled. There's so much of them in the environment, and a lot of you have been in these scenes and seen it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. The solution is a small refundable deposit added to the purchase of beverages in glass, plastic, and metal beverage containers. The deposit's refunded when the containers are returned. So you're basically buying the beverage, but borrowing the beverage container. It's implemented and financed by beverage producers with oversight from MDE. It's not financed by the taxpayers. It's not a tax. And it's a proven highly effective program for reducing litter. And I want to underscore that the bill that we have been working on all these years now, it is much better than any of the other 10 U.S. states programs, and it will have a much, much better result, much higher impact on litter and plastic pollution than the other programs have been able to muster, because we've learned from them. And these lessons have been incorporated in the bill. If it had passed this year, it would have been launched in January of 2029. And the benefits, 3.6 billion additional beverage containers every year, 2.3 billion are plastic bottles. We get probably close to 85% reduction in litter and related plastic pollution, and so forth. Cost savings for local governments and Maryland taxpayers, new jobs, increased investment in reusable beverage container systems, and reduction in greenhouse gas emissions and energy use. So here was the story for 2026. And I think that most of us will say that we had some headwinds this year. Well, it's election year, so I think the General Assembly was reluctant to pass anything that looked like it could be a tax or a fee of any sort. MDE was quite reluctant to take on. They are quite busy writing regulations for the EPR for packaging bill, reluctant to take on any more programs. Affordability was key. There was that surge in inflation in the middle that was not helpful. And the General Assembly focused a lot on other important issues, and a big energy bill that took up a lot of the oxygen. But we had continued progress. Continue to build momentum. It was a good year for the bottle bill. We got new stakeholder support from the Maryland Municipal League, which was opposed to the bill in the first year and had amendments last year. This year, they were fully in support of it. In fact, they said they were strongly supporting it, which is very good news, and support from the Montgomery County executive, as well as also Baltimore City, which has been supporting it all along. And we work very closely with the Coalition for High Performance Recycling. This is an organization that includes businesses that use the recycled content from a bottle bill, plus like the Glass Packaging Institute, the Can Manufacturers Institute, the Association of Plastic Recyclers. So we worked with them, and they also include like Primo Brands beverages, Red Bull, and we're trying to get those businesses more involved to show some of the more economic benefits to some of the lawmakers. So we came out of that. They were very satisfied with our discussions, and we had some sponsor amendments that definitely improved the bill. We had a really outstanding hearing in the House. I can't think of anything that could have gone better in the House. The fact is that the big guns, national big guns that are against bottle bills also showed up, and that was indicative of the fact that they thought it actually had a chance of passing. So there we go. Even though it was an election year, there was concern. American Beverage Association came to oppose it, but we have strong support in the House. But let me just say a little bit about the sponsor amendments. There's been concern between the dynamics of the bottle bill and the extended producer responsibility for packaging over the past last year. I said that the MDE was very busy writing regulations for that latter bill. That bill, though, does say it is totally compatible with the bottle bill. It's in the producer responsibility bill. So one of the amendments to the bottle bill is that there has to be a coordination plan between the two. I think that will definitely help with the support in the Senate. There's a reduction in responsibilities of MDE. They still are in charge, but more responsibilities have been placed on the stewardship organization to do some of these deliverables, probably through contracts with others, and that has to be approved by MDE. The burden of this was a major contribution of the Coalition for High Performance Recycling. The burden of financing by the producers makes the brand owner responsible in the bill this year. It's very clear it's not the distributors. The distributors in Maryland don't like the bill because they think they're paying partly. I don't know that they'll ever support it, but at any rate, it's the big corporate brand that is responsible for paying for the thing, not individual distributors. And there continue to be reimbursements to recyclers for processing redeemable beverage containers that are collected in a curbside bin, if there are any. So the amendments were very good, and even though we got a clear message that it wasn't going to progress this year, it wasn't going to move, the Environment Subcommittee in the Environment and Transportation Committee still had a work session and gave us time to talk about and react to the sponsor amendments. So they actually have been somewhat vetted, not in a long session, but the subcommittee's aware of them. And that was a pretty good meeting. A new development that's very helpful is a joint chairman's report, which came out with the budget. The chairman I'm talking about are the House Appropriations Committee chair and the Budget and Taxation Committee chair in the Senate. I'm going to read you what they said. With the budget come these requests of the administration to do certain reports before the next session. And I'm going to read you what it says, that the Landed Materials Administration of the Maryland Department of the Environment by December 1st, 2026 must write a report and send it to them on the estimated cost and logistical considerations to operate a Maryland beverage container recycling refund and litter reduction program. The estimate should include staffing levels and personnel costs, and the cost to obtain contracted consultant services to guide the program direction and implementation. It should describe how MDE's extended producer responsibility program should be implemented so as not to preclude adoption of a beverage container deposit program. So that comes from Ben Barnes, the House Appropriations Committee chair, and Guy Guzon, the Senate chairman of Budget and Taxation. Aside from those things, we know we have, first of all, the new speaker put in new leadership in the House Economic Matters Committee. You'll recall that the bottle bill in the House is assigned to two committees, Environment and Transportation and Economic Matters. And last year, we passed Environment and Transportation, but Economic Matters declined to have a vote. We have a much more promising leadership team there now, thanks to the new speaker. And the House Speaker herself was a co-sponsor of the bill the last 3 years, and the Senate President was actually the Senate sponsor of the bill 10 years ago. So we know that they both support the bill. Our sense is that the leadership really wants this bill. They're not going to put it in a position where it could be voted down, and they want to see it advance. I think we have good prospects for next year. It has been 50 years we've been trying to get this, but we are well positioned for the 2027 session. And I want to thank the members. All the members of the Bottle Bill Coalition did an incredible job this year in educating the public, lobbying. Many of the organizations lobbied specifically on the bottle bill, and various events that drew people in. One of the highlights was the Mr. Trash Wheel Cash for Trash event, where Baltimore Waterfront Partnership invited people. I'm going to exit here. Invited people hold on, last thing, to bring in cans and bottles and pay 10 cents to each one. They went through in 1 hour. I'm going to stop sharing here. In 1 hour, they collected 22,500 beverage containers and gave everybody a refund. And they ran out of dumpster space and had to stop. So so the public is willing to do this, willing to participate. It's very popular. We know that 90% of registered voters support the bill, and we're really hopeful that next year we'll get us a vote. So
Well, thanks, Martha. Yeah, I know that was a really fun event. And we actually we have a short clip that maybe we'll share after this. So we have a minute for 1 or 2 questions. And I saw one in the chat. I think Anjali was asking, who are the big guns, Martha, who we're coming up against on the bottle bill?
Okay, first, the beverage producers don't want to pay for it. The retailers are reluctant to yield any space. They don't really want to have to take the beverage containers back. That makes it much less convenient. That's one of the problems of other bottle bills, is that they've reduced the responsibilities of retailers, which means fewer people bring them back. And the haulers, the people that do the recycling, see this program as taking away some of the materials they could be recycling. Although they're only recycling about 25% of them, a lot of them are getting trashed. So those are the main ones. But it was the national groups that testified this year.
Yeah.
The local representatives. And we're working hard to find a way to go part way to to get them to a yes.
Great. And also, could you say something about the DC bottle bill? I know when we first launched, we were really excited about what was going on in DC. Can you share something about where everything stands there?
Well, my understanding, it's interesting you said that, because the sponsor just texted me yesterday to talk about it. So remember that the DC Council has a whole year. They don't have a 3-month session. They have a 12-month session. And so it's just been waiting. My understanding is they think they'll be on a vote on it this fall. It's good after it's introduced for a longer period than a year, I think. But I could be wrong about that. But they have a whole year to look at it. But there's also an election. I know that Mayor Bowser is against the bill, but they have very strong support amongst the council members. So I'll get back to you when I hear from her. I didn't have time to call her before the meeting, but she's also not, I don't think she's running for re-election, the bill sponsor in DC. And that's also true. Delegate Teresa is going to be the new clerk of the court in Howard County. So we are going to be recruiting a new sponsor over the summer after the primaries.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for sharing that, and we'll have some time for additional questions, hopefully at the end. But now I just wanted to move on to Jennifer Kunze from Clean Water Action, who's going to be talking about the Cherish Our Communities Act and how things progress there. So
Great.
welcome, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thanks for having me. Yeah, I am here to talk about the Cherish Our Communities Act, which was really exciting cumulative impacts, oops, wrong button, legislation in the legislative session this year. So CHERISH stands for From Cumulative Harms to Environmental Restoration for Improving Our Shared Health. And this bill is looking at environmental justice through the lens of cumulative impacts. Because, the science shows, and we know from what's true on the ground, what we breathe in here in Baltimore City and in other environmental justice communities across the state, that when you have a lot of polluting industries piled up in one place, the sum of their pollution is greater than any single polluting industry existing. When you're breathing in all of the toxic pollutants from multiple different pollution sources, there are more than 70 polluting facilities permitted to emit air pollution in South Baltimore. That drastically impacts people's health, and the cumulative impact of that harm is the reason why we have environmental injustice, is the reason why life expectancies in South Baltimore are 10 to 20 years less than life expectancies in North Baltimore. And the permitting system that we have, the way that our state and most states across the country and the federal government issue permits to pollute, do not account for that at all. They don't look at, it's a polluter-centered approach instead of a people-centered approach. They look at, okay, this polluter, if they fall within these parameters, has a right to pollute this much under the way that the permitting scheme is set up. Are they fitting these parameters? Check, they get to pollute. Instead of a people-centered approach of looking at, okay, well, what's the pollution existing in this community already? What are the health stats? What are people already dealing with? Is it equitable or not to place this facility here? Should it be put somewhere that isn't already dealing with a disproportionate burden of pollution, or should it, ideally not be built at all? That's not the system we have. That's the system that the CHERISH Act was trying to move us towards. And I didn't explain this picture. This is a drone photograph from the South Baltimore Community Land Trust of the neighborhood of Curtis Bay. On the right of the frame, you see part of the neighborhood. And on the left, you see a tiny fraction of the industry that is concentrated very, very close to the neighborhood there. You have the infamous CSX coal terminal with the coal piles and the rail cars that you can see right there on the other side of the warehouse. Further into the background, you have the W.R. Grace Chemical Recycling Facility, and behind it, the coal plant, and behind it, the medical waste incinerator and the landfill, and just out of frame further to the left, the entire Fairfield Industrial Area Peninsula. All of this pollution that, because of the way we currently issue permits to pollute, gets piled up in one spot and drastically impacts the health of people in Curtis Bay and across South Baltimore. So the approach that the CHERISH Act takes is really exciting and groundbreaking for Maryland, groundbreaking across the country, honestly, but based on best practices that are already going into effect in other states. The Cherish Our Communities Act was developed by the Mid-Atlantic Justice Coalition, which brings together frontline organizations leading on permitting fights and technical experts and allies from across the state. So it was based on the leadership of the frontline organizations in the community, in the coalition, but based on laws that have already gone into effect in New Jersey, New York, and Minnesota in particular. New Jersey's has already gone into effect. New York's and Minnesota's are in the regulatory process right now. Putting in place a couple of different tools and a couple of different rules to make sure that we don't continue piling up pollution on the same communities. So one thing that it does is it makes sure that communities get the opportunity for public comment, because another of the really big injustices in how Maryland currently issues permits is a lot of air pollution permits. More than half of air pollution permits issued in the state, whenever they're renewed, which has to happen periodically every couple of years, the state takes a look at, okay, like this permit was only good for a couple of years. We're going to consider whether there need to be any updates to it. Many of the air pollution permits, including ones with really big impacts on public health, like that CSX coal terminal, are not required to have public hearings or a public comment process or any opportunity for the public to weigh in at all. It's an enormous problem. So that's a problem the Cherish Act would have fixed. It also would have required, whenever somebody's applying for a new permit to pollute or a renewal permit to pollute, or one to expand, they have to submit a report on what are the existing health burdens in the community and what is or would our facility add to them. And then, because the permit applicant might not include every detail that should be in that report, the public also would get an opportunity to comment on it and answer those questions. And then the Cherish Act said that if it's a new pollution source or an expansion that would add to a disproportionate health burden on the community based on the scientific research and the what's in the report and the public comment. If it's a new or expansion that would add to disproportionate pollution, MDE or the PSC would have to deny that permit, barring very, very narrow exceptions based on true community needs, like you've just got to have a wastewater treatment plant. You can't not, And then for existing facilities, it would say that MDE gains the opportunity, in the cases where they don't already have it, to deny the permit on the basis of that facility is contributing to a disproportionate health burden. And then the final element is that the CHERISH Act would say, if you're one of the facilities that has a permit that is disproportionately impacting an environmental justice community, if you violate your permit, if you're polluting more than you're supposed to, whatever fines you're going to pay, much higher than if you were in another part of the state. So really trying to reduce pollution, enhance penalties for polluting more than you're supposed to, and prevent new pollution from piling up on environmental justice communities. And as many of you already probably know, this was not the year for the CHERISH Act. We faced a lot of really difficult headwinds this year, but at the same time, we got further along in the process than a cumulative impacts bill like this has ever gotten. In some senses, this was year 2 for the CHERISH Act, and in some senses, this was year 12 or 13, because there have been various efforts to pass cumulative impacts permitting reform in the state since 2014 and even before. This year, we had a really strong coalition, really strong champions, support voiced from the governor's office, and a lot of momentum thanks to a lot of work from people across the state. But like Martha was saying about the bottle bill, polluting industries really, really, really worked hard to quash this bill and to try to gut it to be meaningless. And that's a sign that they were really worried that we had a chance of getting it passed this year, which is really the first time that has been the case. But polluting industries brought forward a lot of amendments to exempt certain industries, to exempt certain types of properties, to say anything that's a brownfield the CHERISH Act wouldn't apply to, which basically, means any potential spot where you could build something polluting in an environmental justice community. It's probably a brownfield. Probably CHERISH Act wouldn't apply if that exemption went into place. And just all kinds of really, really weakening, gutting amendments that would have made the bill meaningless. And ultimately, in the days before crossover, there wasn't a way to pass the bill in a form that would actually have any meaning whatsoever to people on the ground. And so the bill couldn't move forward. And so it was a really, really tough, bruising session for this coalition, but people put in so much work. I've never been so impressed by a coalition of frontline community activists really, really leaning in, learning the technical work, learning the details. I've never learned so much about the permitting system as in these past couple of months myself even, and making those really, really tough decisions about okay, what can we give on, what are things that we could, make compromises on, at least for now, and what are the things that are really too far and would make the bill completely meaningless for people living on the ground. Really, really impressive work for the coalition, across the coalition during this really, really tough year. And all of that work and the tough decisions we had to make in that final week before crossover, I think are really going to help advance this issue in the years to come. So that's what happened with the CHERISH Act, and I'll close it out there.
Yeah, thanks for all your hard work, Jennifer. And, the message I'm hearing is we just need to stick with all of the work that we're doing, because each year we're seeing that we can move further on along. In terms of questions, we can take one question before we move to our other speakers. And I'm seeing quite a few questions about who are the polluting industries and how do they exert their influence?
I mean, the polluting industries are the people who receive these pollution permits in EJ communities. You have the people who want to build data centers, the people who want to build new natural gas-fired power plants, the people who want to keep building or keep operating their chemical manufacturing facilities, or the like major industries around the Port of Baltimore. Just if they get a permit to pollute, they don't want this bill to get passed. And we saw them move really powerfully in Annapolis this year. In that final week, there was a meeting where it ended up being like 30 or 40 lobbyists representing polluting industries in the room, with some of the committee members trying to knock holes all throughout the bill. And like I said, I mean, that's a sign that we're gaining momentum and that they were scared, they were scared. With good.
With good reason.
Yep.
Yeah, so thanks. Next, I'm going to move on to Andrea Orozco from IPL-DMV. She's going to give us an update on where things stand on the Affordable Solar Act. So welcome, Andrea.
Hello, Anna. Sorry, let me just remove your spotlight here for a second. But yeah, hi everyone. My name is Andrea Orozco. I'm the Faithful Advocacy Lead at Interfaith Power and Light, and it is so nice to be here with you all again and see so many familiar faces and names. I do just want to take a couple of seconds up at the top to say that I am so grateful for Jennifer. She's being so gracious. But at the end there for Cherish, we were meeting at all times of the day for 1, 2, or 3 hours at a time. And one of our coalition members was even like, I feel like we're family, like we're having all of our meals together. So it was just like a really, like, even though we didn't have the outcome that we obviously wanted, like it was a great experience to like work in coalition and be in community with everybody. But all that being said, let's talk about affordable solar. As a reminder for folks, this bill would have modernized how Maryland supports solar development in a few key ways. For large utility scale solar, the Public Service Commission would run competitive bids, making sure that projects are built at the best value for ratepayers. And for rooftop and community solar, incentives would be regularly adjusted based on real market conditions and federal policy, ensuring that these projects get enough support to actually be built. And the idea here being is like, as we're seeing like those federal like benefits and incentives like get clawed back, the state would meet that demand. This balanced approach would have been expected to help develop up to 4,000 megawatts of new solar by 2035 while keeping costs under control. And then this bill also importantly included a provision that opened the door to portable or balcony solar, which are those small plug-in systems that work in apartments or rental homes, which would mean more people, especially renters and low-income families, can lower their electric bills and take part of the clean energy revolution, even if they can't install rooftop solar. As many of you might have noticed in the way that I am phrasing things, this bill ultimately did not pass in full, but I am happy to report back that the balcony solar provision specifically was adopted into the utility relief bill introduced by the Speaker. This utility relief bill did not actually do much in actually reducing our utility bills, and in fact try to cut down our States and Power program, which many of you worked to get into a better place with us 2 years ago. But it did include this balcony solar provision and is now on the governor's desk. There is also talk of the Renewable Portfolio Standard, or the RPS, which is how these clean energy project incentives are funded, of getting a revamp during the interim between sessions. And we will be ready to act if that is true, and we will keep all of you posted, but it's a little bit of a waiting game right now. I know that was a lot of information all at once, so I'm happy to stop there and see if there are any questions I can answer for folks.
Yeah, any questions? And if you don't have any questions right now, you can pop them into the chat, and we'll get to them at the end. So if you think of anything around the Affordable Solar Act, you know, oh, they're all coming in. So Joelle has this question: how can someone who wants a balcony solar panel do that, Andrea?
Yeah, so as far as like where to purchase them, I know that I don't specifically know who will be carrying them. I know that like famously IKEA in other parts of the world carries them. And so hopefully we see something like that where they're just like easily accessible. The bill allows for about just one solar panel essentially to be placed out on your balcony. I don't know what those run, like what they cost. And as far as like starting when, usually the bills will get signed by the governor and then go into effect the 1st of October. So I think any time after October would be the timeline.
Okay, that's helpful. And then, we know that there's opposition to the bill. And, do you have any thoughts about where the primary opposition comes from?
Yeah, I think there's like a couple of things that we're working against this session. Not necessarily that there were a lot of energy bills, but we have seen over the last 2 sessions these mega like bills get crafted. Last session, if many of you remember, it was next gen or next generation. And this year it was this utility relief bill. And these like mega bills are being like crafted. I don't mean to be dramatic, but in the dead of night, essentially. It's not public information. They don't consult anybody except for industry partners, um, industry or like generators, people who are work for utilities, like, and the like we are seeing this like chronic problem of legislators just really believing the word of these utilities and interest as gospel and as true, and believing that they are experts on the issue when really like they're experts in like maximizing their profits. And so I think there's just like a disconnect there about how the legislature as a whole is operating. It's not a very democratic process if you're limiting testimony for the biggest energy package in like that we're seeing all year. Only get 5 people who are in favor of chosen to testify for it, and 5 who are opposed get chosen to testify for it, when we know that there were probably over 100 submissions of written testimony and people who probably wanted to weigh in. So I think that it's just like a larger problem, which we're still like working on how we can like help address over the interim.
Okay, thanks so much. And thanks, Marjorie, for sharing that example of the balcony systems in the chat. So finally, we're going to hear from Robin Lewis, who has also been furiously working on the data center legislation. So Robin is also part of the IPL-DMV team. So welcome and give us an update, Robin. You'll need to unmute. Great.
Got it. How's everyone today? My name's Robin Lewis. I am the Director for Climate Equity at Interfaith Power and Light. As many of you know, Interfaith Power and Light DMV has been actively mobilizing in response to rapid expansion of data centers across our region. Please check out our website at ipl.org/realwisdom. So I could put that in the chat, that'd be great. For updates on each county's grassroots data center efforts, more and more counties are fighting back, so we're trying to keep up. There's so much going on. While many decisions are made at the county level, there were several important pieces of legislation in the state this session that we worked to advance. So first, we supported Delegate Charkoudian's Clean Capacity Bill. This legislation aims to reduce the strain that data centers place on Maryland's power grid by establishing a voluntary demand response program. Under this program, data centers would reduce their energy use during peak hours, primarily through the use of battery storage, non-polluting battery storage, helping to avoid the reliance on fleets of diesel generators. For those of you who don't know, they're huge generators that look like boxcars. It also incentivizes cleaner practices by prioritizing projects that bring their own renewable energy. This provision was ultimately incorporated into the Speaker's utility relief bill and has been sent to the governor's desk. We also supported legislation to increase transparency around data center development at the state level. That bill would have required operators to submit impact disclosure reports to the Maryland Department of Planning, the Maryland Department of Environment, and local governments. It also called for more transparency in local approval processes, including public notice and community input meetings, and proposed limits on financial incentives for these projects. Unfortunately, this bill was not passed during this past legislative session. Finally, we supported a set of bills focused on tax equity. These measures aim to repeal existing exemptions that allow data centers to avoid paying state tax on sales tax on property and certain county property taxes. Another bill would have enabled counties to establish special tax categories for data centers. Unfortunately, neither of these proposals or provisions and bills advanced this session, which is very unfortunate. Although one of the major bills was passed, we know there's so much more we need to do at the state level. For now, what this means is that we have to continue to fight at the county level for more just and community-focused legislation to limit, restrict, and control data center development. So let's continue to fight the power that be. For those of you who don't know the song, Fight the Power. But that's all I have to say at the state level. But at the county level, we need all of you to get engaged. Please check out our website. We would love to hear any information that you have about county and local fights and legislation that's going on the county level on data centers. So please send that to us. But thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Robin. And, I know that all of this work is still continuing, and I'll hand it over to Joelle, who's the Executive Director of IPL, with a closing call to action around the data center legislation. So take it away, Joelle.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone who's shared. Thanks for everyone who is here today. I'm Joelle Novey, she, her pronouns, with Interfaith Power and Light. I've been thinking about the quote from the poet Andrea Gibson of blessed memory, who said, "Even when the truth isn't hopeful, the telling of it is." And I really appreciate Reverend Melody's reminder that we can hold, whatever we experience this session together, and think about what it means together, and take turns when we get overwhelmed or in despair. And I do want to raise up some of the themes that my team, that Robin and Andrea and I have been talking about internally, as well as some of the things I heard the presenters share, which is a sense of like the frustration when, we build these amazing coalitions and fight these fights for good policy, and then it feels like at the end, there's a really strong pushback from those who don't want to see them pass. And like I appreciated the suggestion from several speakers that actually the force of the pushback is a sign of our strength, and that like there was real fear among the polluters that we were going to pass some of these bills, and that's why they fought back so hard. But that like sudden reversal at the end can feel really hard, and I just want to share that with everyone and not turn away from it or not diminish it. And as Andrea said, a world where our most important energy legislation is like this massive piece of legislation with 20 different things in it, some good, some bad, that gets written in the dark, and suddenly, gets introduced with very little input at the end of session. Is like now the second year in a row that's how we've made energy legislation in Maryland, and even with some good things in it that you heard about today, like that stinks. That's not how we should be. It's not how we should be passing energy policy in Maryland. And likewise, the what you heard about the sort of outsized voice of polluters in kind of making sure the bottle bill and Cherish didn't actually pass this year. It's really sobering about who is in charge and who's making decisions, and how to prevail, ultimately. So I wanted to just say that I'm sitting with all of those questions. Our team is sitting all of those questions. I know IPC folks are thinking about those questions, and I invite all of us to continue to like be on this journey together, thinking about what we're called to do in these fights. And one of the quotations from the Hebrew Bible, from Exodus, that's been guiding us as we think about, in particular, the data center fight, is this one on our website, which is that God says only the wise-hearted people get to help build the tabernacle. Like, you need people with wise hearts to build things. And we have these massive server warehouses. There are already 600 data centers in Virginia, and many proposed for different parts of Maryland. And these facilities are like making obscene uses of our water and our land and our energy. And the question is, who should get to decide what gets built? Who should get to decide how they get built? Who should get to decide what they're responsible to do or not do for their communities, and what they do with our resources? Like, we should get to decide. That should be the wise-hearted human beings who are driving this conversation. And too often, it's not. Too often, it's what we would say is artificial intelligence rather than the real wisdom of human beings. And so the invitation I want to make as we exit this legislative session and sort of acknowledge that too many of our wise hearts are not prevailing in these decisions is to just redouble our commitment that it should be the people who are most impacted and the communities that are most impacted and the real human wisdom that should be driving the decisions we make about what gets built in our communities and how it gets built. And I want to just share some of the ways we are inviting faith communities to be part of that fight and that work through this website. And as Robin said, it's the counties is where these fights are happening right now. And I also just want to emphasize how right now it is. Like, these proposals are like there are updates. We can't keep this website updated because the fights in the counties around data centers coming into Maryland are changing every day, literally. Like, the county councils are making, considering moratoria and like voting down moratoria. And there's like the Frederick County the people were so upset by the county council zoning to make data centers possible in a particular area that they got organized and collected like something like 22,000 signatures to put it on the ballot as a ballot measure, as a ballot question, to overrule the will of the county council. So this is a fight that's happening right now. So if you're looking for a place where your faith community can make a difference and join your voices with others who are working together to care for our common ecosystems and common home, this is the place to do that right now in a way that's really timely and important. I just want to share some of the resources on this website to give you an invitation to join us. And I put it in the chat again because there's a place here to sign up for a downloadable folder of resources that you can use in your congregation. And so this button here, this purple button, is a place you could fill out a form and let us know that you want to download resources and how your congregation might get involved. I also want to highlight some of the counties that we already have some information about the fight in the county that's available here. This folder also has these graphics, like these photo petitions that you can say real wisdom is better than AI. We also have real wisdom is better than AI stickers that are amazing. People love the stickers. So you can get hold of all that stuff by letting us know. Another thing that we well, let me just quickly roll down and show you that each of these counties have a pop down with more information about how you can get involved in your local area. And if you know things we don't know that aren't on here, please let us know so we can make this website even more useful or include other places in Maryland where these fights are underway. Finally, I just wanted to say another thing that feels important to me in this moment is to affirm that we have choices about how we use these tools, that these tools don't have to just decide whether they're using us. Like, we're in charge, we're the grown-ups, we're the adults, we're the humans, we're the deciders. So we made a very cool resource that's also still like constantly being updated right here about ways to opt out of AI in your various uses of different software, and try to like, and they don't make it easy, but it's a good thing to remember that we have some choices about this stuff and we don't just have to like get opted into all these things. The final thing I'll just say is that like, we really do believe that, you know, big facilities like these data centers cannot get built in most places in the United States, including in Maryland, without, you know, county councils and other kinds of local entities letting that happen. And so getting yourself educated, engaging your congregation on the data center fight now, and getting informed, and so that you this can't happen without us noticing, or it can't happen before we paid attention, like before we woke up, is like so powerful right now. And anyone who's driven through Virginia and seen what happened in Northern Virginia, you know, can take a cautionary tale about how quickly we will need to move. But I do think that if we tell everyone what this means and raise our voices together, we actually do have a real place of leverage for any individual facility to get way slowed down by our opposition, and we're seeing that around the country. I'll leave that there.
Thanks, Joelle. So lastly, I think one of the things that we're hearing is these are all very long journeys that we're on. And so we do want to build groups around our passion and the work that we're doing, so that, as Reverend Melody said, you know, when part of the team is tired, they get the opportunity to take rest, and others step up. And so I think that's my call to, if you don't have a green team at your congregation, Interfaith Partners for the Chesapeake offers green team training twice a year. Our next one will be coming up in October, right before we start thinking about priorities for the next legislative session. So do join us. We'll be setting up the sign-up page soon. So come back to our website and, you know, bring others with you on this journey. So thanks so much. And I'm going to just pop it back to Joelle so that you can close us out.
Thank you so much, everyone. I wanted to close out with a song by Holly Near called Mountain Song. It's a song about defiance, about mountaintop removal coal mining, but it reminded me of the spirit that we need to bring to the fight against data centers.
I've dreamed on this mountain since first I was my mother's daughter, and you can't just take my dreams away. Not with me watching. You may drive a big machine, but I was born a great big woman, and you can't just take my dreams away without me fighting. It's all mountain raised my many daughters. Some died young, some are still living. If you come here for the taking a mountain, well, we ain't come here to give it. I have dreamed, I have dreamed, I have dreamed on this mountain since first I was my mother's daughter, and you can't just take my dreams away. Can't take them away. No, you can't just take my dreams away. The rivers and the hollers, no, you can't just bomb my mountains away.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next year. Bye, everyone.